So, who exactly are the major players in the media industry? Who owns the media properties, or the distribution networks, or even the power within the industry? Well, much like in the US, it's media conglomerates. But unlike in the US, these conglomerates are actually bigger and more diverse. Some of them are called... Okay, to prevent myself from total embarrassment, I'm going to get Google Translate to pronounce all of the Korean words in this presentation. And so excuse the male voice as he pronounces everything correctly.
제발.
Which are a handful of large conglomerates in Korea that are controlled by powerful families, are involved in a lot of different industries, and have assets upwards of 10 trillion won, or roughly 9 billion USD. In media and entertainment, the chaebol that rules them all is the CJ Group, run by the same family that started Samsung, except they broke off in the 1990s. CJ was founded by
이병철,
and is now run by his descendant
이재현,
and
송경식.
according to Forbes, the company ranks at 1,106th and has a market cap of $1.9 billion. Interestingly, CJ is listed as a food, drink, and tobacco company. If we look at its income, this makes sense. Home shopping and food represent the bulk of its earnings, while entertainment and media only represents about 15% of CJ Group's total annual income. Within this media division, there is CJ Entertainment, a film production and distribution studio, CJ CGV, a theater chain, TVN, a cable channel, Studio Dragon, a TV production company, and Mnet, a music channel. Even though it does not represent a large portion of the company's income, the media division is important in promoting the shopping and food divisions. Integration means that these divisions work together in harmony in order to benefit one another. As an example, take CJ's concept of the Cultureplex, which envisions CGV not only as movie theaters, but also as eateries, performance halls, and shopping centers. When you go see a movie, you're also immersed in these other services. And when you watch a piece of media that promotes the Korean lifestyle, CJ's various services can help immediately realize that vision. The Cultureplex is one of the pillars for a larger business strategy called Great CJ, which aims for global expansion and innovation by 2020. The aim is to have 90 billion in total revenue, 70% of which will come from abroad. Unfortunately, this year, there has so far been no signs of success, but the Great CJ strategy demonstrates how much importance CJ puts on global expansion. Looking through its website, we can see how CJ values different regions as either potential markets or potential production partners. In film, for example, CJ has partnered with nations like the US and Japan to produce films like Endings, Beginnings, and Erased. In terms of exhibition, CGV owns 455 theaters around the world, only 149 of which are within Korean borders. In fact, the very conception of CGV is in itself international. CGV stands for CJ, Golden Harvest, which is a Hong Kong film studio, and Village Roadshow, which is an Australian production and exhibition company. So, from conception to production to market, we see here that transnational interconnections are at the heart of this Korean company. The second
제발.
involved in media and entertainment is Lotte Corporation, a private conglomerate founded by
심규호,
who passed away earlier this year, and is now run by
신동빈.
his son. Forbes lists the company like CJ under food, drink, and tobacco, but despite its bigger market cap at 3.2 billion, Lotte is lower in ranking at 1,860th. While I couldn't find a breakdown of Lotte's income, here are just some of the sectors that they're involved in. Ready? Candy manufacturing, beverages, fast food, hotels, retail, industrial chemicals, electronics, construction, publishing, and even baseball teams. I mean, just to name a few. Lotte also owns a cinema chain with 112 domestic locations and a film distribution company called Lotte Entertainment, which has a smaller and more domestically oriented roster than CJ. In terms of transnational interactions, Lotte has been more invested in expanding its retail and shopping sectors. And with a less integrated strategy, that hasn't really involved the media division. Nevertheless, the success of its recent film series, Along with the Gods, potentially indicates a move towards media and entertainment. But only time will tell if Lotte will prioritize this sector in the future. The final company I will cover is somewhat involved in a different part of the M&E industry, a part that is becoming increasingly significant in media around the world. Naver is a private company that finds its roots in a search engine. It was founded by
이혜진,
and is currently run by
한성숙.
Well, Naver isn't a
제발.
it's close to becoming one. It's younger than CJ and Lotte and is located outside of Seoul in
성남,
or the
판교.
Techno Valley, which is the Korean equivalent of the Silicon. Forbes lists Naver under IT software and services and ranks it at 1,238. In terms of market cap, Naver is miles ahead of CJ and Lotte at $23.5 billion, following a common trend of tech companies overshadowing older companies in terms of financial scale. As a search engine, Naver handles 75% of searches in Korea and has 42 million active users. Naver also owns Band and Line, two messaging apps, Webtoon, an online publishing company specializing in comic form, VLive, a live streaming platform, Naver TV, a web broadcasting network for web dramas, and Studio N, a production company focusing on dramas based on Webtoon IP. Line represents a significant part of Naver's transnational operations, since it is a Japanese subsidiary and is the most popular messaging app in Japan and Southeast Asia. Interestingly, in Korea, KakaoTalk overshadows Line as the most ubiquitous messaging app. And so when it comes to Line, Naver must stay in tune with markets in other nations more so than its own domestic market. Beyond Line, Naver also has global offices in Japan, US, China, Vietnam, Taiwan, and Thailand. It also runs research labs in Europe and positions itself as a leader in global AI research. These moves represent Naver's desire to open markets abroad and expand to have a more global presence. And so to summarize, while it
제발.
definitely have a large role to play in the media and entertainment sector, new players are beginning to peek their head from the tech sector, representing an entirely new group of companies. And as digital media grows, their role in the media sector will likely grow as well. The power that companies wield is largely shaped by the policies that govern them. This next portion will focus on the regulations and legislations that have to do with the media and entertainment sector. There are 4 regulatory bodies that pertain to media industries in Korea. The Korean Communication Commission, which covers TV and internet, the Ministry of Science and ICT, which covers online TV and internet, the Ministry of Culture, Sports and Tourism, which covers K-pop, film, and newspapers, and the Korean Trade Commission, which covers media ownership, mergers, and acquisitions. In terms of television, there are 2 major legislations. Firstly, the Broadcasting Act governs terrestrial broadcasters, providing guidelines, developing rating systems, and ensuring compliance with government policy. Under this act, funding comes through the Broadcast Communications Development Fund. Secondly, the Internet Multimedia Broadcast Services Act governs broadcasting through Internet protocols, aka digital or online TV services. This act provides licenses, develops rating systems, and includes the Information and Communication Promotion Fund. For film, the major legislation is the Act on Promotion of Films and Video Works. This act regulates the film rating system and imposes a screen quota, which ensures that movie theaters play Korean films for 20% of each business day. While the quota was higher and played a bigger role in the past, currently the success of Korean films far surpasses the quota and likely led to the confidence that relaxed the quota in 2006. Under the Film Act, funding is disseminated by the Korean Film Council. During 2020, when many governments initiated funding packages to help film and TV production through the pandemic, the Korean Film Council, in comparison, did not offer as large and comprehensive a package as some other nations. It provided help to the marketing of 20 films whose releases were affected by COVID-19 and offered discounted movie tickets to kickstart exhibition in June. In general, however, the industry has been unimpressed with the Korean Film Council in this time of crisis. In addition to these major acts, the Korean Communication Commission also has a few other legislations that affect media. The Act on Promotion of Information and Communication Network Utilization and Information Protection prohibits the distribution of illegal content. The regulations on broadcasting standards and the regulations on broadcasting advertising standards ensure quality in broadcast content. Another major part of media governance is the rating system. Korea has several regulatory bodies that provide ratings for media content, including the Korea Communications Standards Commission for TV, the Game Rating Board for video games, and the Korean Media Rating Board for film. All of them follow this general structure: suitable for all audiences, suitable for 12 and up, for 15 and up, for 18 and up, and restricted. There's also copyright law, a crucial piece of protection for media creators. Korea has the Korean Copyright Act, which adheres to the international standards set by the Berne Convention for the Protection of Literary and Artistic Works, and by the World Intellectual Property Organization in general. Both copyright and ratings also often rely on self-regulation in different countries. And in Korea, several associations offer self-regulatory functions, be it contributing to project development or protecting members' interests. These include the Motion Pictures Association of Korea, the Korean Broadcasters Association, the Korean Cable Television and Telecommunications Association, and the Korea Cable Broadcasters Association. Now let's talk about the policies that govern these regulations and legislations. One key policy that many countries struggle with is media ownership. As a country and as a government, do we allow companies to do what is most lucrative, or do we regulate companies for fairness but make them potentially less competitive on the global stage? Since 2000, the KCC has opted for the latter, deregulating ownership in order to make companies more competitive, which it has coupled with supporting local players to even things out. Broadcasters and newspapers, for example, can merge to become media conglomerates, as is the case with JTBC, which is a cable company, and
중앙일보,
which is a newspaper. Currently, both SK Telecom and LG are seeking acquisitions of broadcasters in order to diversify their business in the face of a saturated and shrinking telecommunications market. The applications go to the KCC and the KTC, and they're still currently pending. Whether or not they're passed is based on a variety of different factors, one of which is the audience share that is resulting. Audience share is actually one of the only ways that ownership is regulated in Korea. The KCC states that media conglomerates can merge however they like, but that each company cannot capture more than 30% of the audience. This ensures content diversity while also giving the consumers ample choice. Another pressing policy has to do with the treatment of OTTs, or over-the-top streaming services. Currently, there is no regulation for services like Netflix, which is considered an additional communications service business which receives funding from the Information and Communications Promotion Fund. Terrestrial broadcasters feel threatened by these streaming platforms, and rightly so. In just 1 year, from November 2019 to November 2020, Netflix went from having 2 million users in Korea to 6.4 million, more than a threefold increase. In March, when the pandemic hit, Netflix made $29.6 million from Korea in that 1 month alone. Given this exponential growth, broadcasters are petitioning for streaming services to be considered as a TV service under the Broadcast Act, and to take money from the Broadcast Communications Development Fund, which would require them to pay a tax and disclose their earnings. Simply put, the broadcasters want to know what they're up against in terms of global players entering the Korean market, which has been previously dominated by local content and services. This proposal, however, also puts local streamers into the same boat, but they're operating at a loss, with a slim chance they can actually afford the tax. Furthermore, the government has actually promised to support local OTTs, which makes regulating the international OTTs that much harder. As of this moment, the petition is still pending, as the government juggles the need to limit foreign players with the need to support local services. Perhaps what Korea is most known for is its policies on soft power. Soft power refers to a country investing in its cultural reputation in order to promote a positive impression of itself on the global stage, and strengthen diplomatic aims through charm and attraction. K-pop, for example, produces a positive impression of Korea, and this can have ample political and economic benefits. Since the late 90s, the Ministry of Culture has invested in and promoted the growth of Hallyu through government subsidies, tax incentives, and the loosening of regulations on the export of entertainment products. This effort has traditionally focused on K-dramas and K-pop almost exclusively, and some have criticized that this segregated effort won't lead to holistic, maximized growth for Korean culture. In June 2020, the Ministry of Culture changed up its strategy, forming a new Hallyu Support and Cooperation Division that involves 13 ministries in total in a more integrated approach. To summarize, these policies paint a picture of a largely deregulated industry, whose governance focuses more on support rather than regulation. While this attitude has worked since the mid-aughts, its future amongst the global stage of large global players remains to be seen. For now, Korea has been very successful in cultivating a high level of soft power with its policies, and this positive reputation helps bolster demand for its cultural content across the world. Thank you for watching part 2. I will see you guys in part 3 where we get to talk about the fun things like the shows that people actually watch and the films and Parasite. Again, thanks for watching. Bye!